Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Patrick Harvie is saying that the SNP need to very much distance themselves from Brian Souter. They're saying it's because of his vile personal views, that he is obnoxious, that his views aren't progressive and things like that. That's what they're saying. They really don't like him. They don't agree with his views because he's giving the views of the masses, the majority. He's talking about the sort of the socially conservative views that most people have. And of course, Patrick Harvie doesn't like it. But the main reason, of course, he's complaining is one of fear. Because Patrick Harvie knows full well that the SNP are absolutely desperate for Brian Souter's money. And if Souter is going to give them the money to clear their overdraft, say £1 million, then Souter is going to want something for it. And one of those wants will be to abandon the Greens, to throw the Greens out of government, to break the Butte House Agreement, and to send these Marxist extremists back to the backbenchers where they have no power, no say, no influence, and will cease to be relevant in any way. So you've got to think maybe having Brian Souter on board is perhaps worth the payment, I suppose, the clearance of their overdraft. Who knows? It's a very difficult decision. But we'll take a look and see why Patrick Harvie is running scared. Here goes. Now, I would ask if you do hit the subscribe button before we get into this. It really massively helps. We're political. We get pushed down in the algorithm. And little stories like this are all worth the rise. Because what we're seeing here is a party saying one thing, but meaning something else. They're using a straw man argument. They're saying, oh, look at this awful individual. We can't have him anywhere near the SNP. He's a terrible man with terrible views. And what they actually mean is, no, this man is a direct danger to us because he will force us out of government. Oh dear, what a shame, as they say. So Patrick Harvie says Scottish government must distance itself from Brian Souter's vile personal views. And when you understand what Brian Souter's views are, they all of a sudden don't seem so vile. What I find vile is the sexualisation of children. Maggot Chapman of the Greens wants all that. What I find vile is the pushing of extremist ideals by a very powerless or low voted party, which seems to go against what the majority of people want in Scotland. That's extremism. That is overpowerment by a very small minority. I find that particularly vile. I find it exceptionally obnoxious that the destruction of jobs, of future generations' ability to better themselves is removed simply because there's a tiny proportion of Greens who sit in their circle jerk trying to be virtuous in what they believe, and yet what they believe will make no difference at all to what they say, but will destroy the future. That's what I find vile. But I don't find a man who says let's protect children particularly vile. Anyway, the Greens co-leader said he is worried about the billionaire's involvement with the government given his stance on homosexuality. Brian Souter is not against homosexuality. Let's be clear about this. Brian Souter understands that homosexuals exist. He doesn't have a problem with homosexuals. What he has got a problem is the pushing of homosexuals and homosexuality onto children, onto very young children. And also what the Greens co-leader is worried about, what Patrick Harvie and all of the Greens are worried about, is the fact that they'll soon be out of a job if Souter does cough up the money and says, look, you'll get it on that condition. Anyway, the Scottish Government must be clear it does not share the values of Brian Souter. Oh, it does. It suits everyone. The SNP will share the values of anyone who pays. It's the old Marx Brothers, isn't it? These are my principles, and if you don't like them, I have others. And Souter will buy the principles. Anyway, this is after the business tycoon was courted by Humza Yousaf. A minister has warned. The little deviant, imp, Patrick Harvie, the Greens co-leader, blasted the co-founder of Stagecoach Transport Empire over his role in the notorious Keep the Clause campaign. Speaking to the Daily Record, the Minister for Tenants' Rights, the one who's actively destroying the rental industry, said the kind of socially conservative Scotland that he might wish he lives in, that Scotland, he says, does not exist. Souter handed millions of pounds to the SNP during Alex Salmond's time as First Minister, but the donations stopped when Sturgeon took over in 2014. He does not like Sturgeon, he does not like her politics, and he does not like her laissez-faire liberalism. He also funded a private campaign in 2000 opposing plans by the then Labour administration in Edinburgh to scrap Section 28, which was a Thatcher-era law that prevented councils from promoting homosexuality in schools. And as he says, he understands it exists. He's not asking them to not explain it. He's asking them to not promote it as a positive life choice onto children. Let them be adults. Let them make their own mind up. Don't push techniques, for heaven's sake. Remember, it is the SNP that sent out questionnaires to 5-year-olds asking them what they felt when they touched themselves. And you can imagine the guy sitting back at SNP HQ looking at the results, one hand under the desk, knocking it out as they're reading the results, because that's who the SNP are. And Maggot Chapman keep pushing for the rights of children to want to experience sexual desires at a very young age. Her words, not mine. Anyway, the guest list for the event at a 5-star hotel included Souter. This was this dinner that he had organised. They'd organised this big fat dinner to try and raise money. Anyway, the event included Souter, the First Minister, and Neil Gray, the Economy Secretary. Harvie said, "I would have been genuinely worried if this was something about courting party membership." Well, of course it is. They're after his cash. They need Souter to pay the bills. And he may well be willing to, but the price will be ditch the Greens. He said, if it's just about involvement in a government business event, you don't have to insist that someone supports your politics in order to take part. But what has to be really, really clear is that not just my party, but the Scottish Government does not share the values of Brian Souter. Yes, they will. The SNP will kiss the ring of Souter if he coughs up. MPs voted to scrap Section 28 clause in June 2000, despite Souter's private campaign to keep it. And in a statement at the time, Souter said, "I believe the fight has been very worthwhile, and it is good to see marriage placed at the centre of statutory guidance for future generations of Scots." Harvie added, he said, "I went into politics on the back of this vile, homophobic campaign of bigotry and prejudice that he funded." No one cares that you're gay. They do care that you're sexualising 5-year-olds. And that's the problem, Harvie. Your party wants to sexualise children. And that really just sums you up. One only has to look, as I say, at Maggot Chapman for the lowest, vilest, subhuman piece of human filth ever to go into politics. He says, this is Harvie continue. He says, the kind of socially conservative Scotland that he might wish he lives in, that Scotland does not exist. Well, imagine the fear and horror that would happen if a socially conservative Kate Forbes started leading the SNP. What would Harvie do? They've often said they'd run for the hills and quit. But I don't think they will. They haven't yet, despite all their policies failing. If Kate Forbes comes over, of course, they'd have to. Because if they didn't quit, it wouldn't matter. She'd end the agreement immediately. That would frighten them more than Souter, wouldn't it? Anyway, he goes on and he's talking a load of old crap. Nobody really listens to Patrick Harvie anymore. He's an obnoxious little turd, rolled in as much glitter as his party can afford to buy. But he is just a nasty, obnoxious piece of shit. And of course, it is the party that wants to sexualise children. Souter is saying, please don't. Souter isn't anti-gay. He's just anti-promotion. And that is the difference. We don't care if you're gay. He said we don't want to sexualise children. It's funny how the Greens object to that stance. Ultimately, that's what they're objecting to. Somebody saying no. I think that sums up the Greens more than it sums up Brian Souter. Anyway, we shall end there, come up and round off the video. Now, the Souter issue really is a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? If he coughs up the money, it means the end of the Greens out of the Butte House agreement. They've gone, which is a good thing. On the other hand, if he doesn't cough up the money, the SNP are in deep, deep financial doodah. They may not be able to afford to do a full campaign at the general election. They may even find themselves bankrupted and basically ceasing to exist. And so it's like, ooh, which is best? It's very difficult, isn't it? It's a very difficult position to take a side on. Do you want Souter to come in and get rid of the Greens, or do you want him to stay off, keep the Greens on board, but let the SNP, struggle badly for cash? Be interesting. Let me know in the comments. Let me see what you think. Souter, good or bad? Is he, should he pay and get rid of the Greens, or should he not pay and let the SNP struggle financially? Let me know. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like. As I say, definitely leave that comment. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.